Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. My name is Melissa, and this is Sammi. We are diving deep into conversations that connect and inspire. Stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Stories that take us to the heart of human connection. Please note that opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Please listen with your kindness and an open mind. Each story shared is authentic and vulnerable. Let's embrace our differences with empathy, knowing every voice enriches us. Together, let's cultivate a community of respect and curiosity. Thank you for listening. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired. Hey everyone, welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. Today we are you laughing at me already?
No, I'm laughing at that. It's funny when we do recordings and we do these weird rambles before we do, hey, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, hello.
I'm going to leave that
Sammi, we've been talking for 10 minutes, but hello.
Hello.
Totally. And then sometimes when I'm looking back at edits and I'm like, I can tell we were laughing when we started. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why is she laughing? We're just laughing at ourselves. Anyways, so today we are going to wrap up Domestic Violence Month and enter into a month for the unhoused. We're changing our lingo a little bit with that because in our research in talking about homelessness, we learned that that's not really the term that it's not really the correct term to use anymore. And now it's preferred to use the term unhoused instead of homeless. So we're flipping it. So if you hear us tripping a little bit, it's because we're in the middle of flipping our language. So
yeah, which I'm really grateful for. It was actually one of our guests, Peter Samuelson, that told us about that because he's like, technically some of them have a house or have a home. Maybe it's not a house, but they have a home.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I thought that was so interesting.
That's a good point. Yeah. Some of them do have a place where they live. Mm-hmm. It's just not what we would define as a home. Yeah. And so, anyways, and sorry, they have a home. That's the wrong way I did it backwards. Some of them have what they would define as a home, what they call a home, but not what we would define as a house, is what I'm trying to say. I flipped my words. Oh, and so we're trying to use the term unhoused. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. We had, before we jump into that. Yeah. Yeah, we did domestic. Again, another one that came up as a conversation, and we've been kind of mixing back and forth between saying domestic violence and domestic abuse. We've been kind of jumping back and forth. And in one of our episodes that released at the end of the month, she kind of mentioned that, the way that people receive those two terminologies differently, and people seem to accept domestic abuse more than they accept domestic violence, I'm pretty sure is the way that it was.
I think that what ends up happening and the perception is, and she could not be more right. And now is like, oh, damn, I wish we had this conversation a month ago because wow, you were absolutely right. And I can see it so clearly. So basically the idea, Jordan, if you're listening to this, you can jump, let me know if I'm saying this wrong, but this is how I perceived that part of the conversation. When somebody hears domestic violence, they immediately think physical violence. They immediately think black eyes and the obvious signs of physical violence. And it is harder to wrap our brains around the fact that there are a multitude of different forms of abuse that are under the category of people that are under the category of domestic violence, but really, like what Jordan was saying, is the overarching umbrella is abuse, domestic abuse, and then physical violence is part of it. So is financial abuse and emotional abuse and spiritual abuse, and there are it is a multifaceted thing. So when you say domestic violence, it kind of immediately cuts off a whole lot more. And part of that problem is somebody who is potentially a survivor of, or somebody who's finding themselves in an abusive situation might hear domestic violence and think, well, that's not me because he hasn't hit me or she hasn't hit me. That's not me because I'm not being physically assaulted. But one other thing that she said that struck me was they have scholarships named after 5 individuals that I believe are individuals that came out of their program that were murdered by their significant other, and of those five, I believe it was 5 out of 5, or it was 4 out of 5 that had never been hit before until the person snapped and murdered them. So the danger in just saying domestic violence is that people hear it and think, well, that's not me. I don't need to hear this. I don't need to, I'm not victim to this or surviving this because I'm not being hit. When really there are so many other steps before the hitting and steps before something really dangerous could happen that really need to be paid attention to. Anyways, that was a long ramble, but that's
No, no,
the
no.
explanation of it.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
no abuse
No,
should
no, no.
go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. But the whole thing is that no, like when she said this also in her episode, is that no abuse should go undealt with or unidentified. Like
Yeah,
any amount of abuse is abuse to pay attention to,
yeah,
because any amount of abuse could be precursor to another kind of abuse, and that snap can happen very quickly.
yeah.
So it's dangerous to ignore it. So anyway,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
absolutely. And I appreciated her saying that too, because it never really occurred to me in that difference, especially because like I see them both the same in my head. Like if I think violence and abuse, like they're very the same, but obviously
But
everybody's
is
brain works
a
differently yet.
it's like you see, do you see, sorry to interrupt you, do you see like I'm gonna say
See,
this
I see punching with the word abuse. So it's physical to me in my
right,
head.
but if
I
you
see it
hear
with both.
domestic violence, do you hear somebody yelling and screaming at somebody or somebody making somebody feel like, would you put gaslighting into domestic violence?
I don't know, but I see physical abuse in both of them. Do you know what I mean in
Right.
my head? So
Yes.
I mean like and that's again one of those things where it's like I have to remind myself that there's the other layers of it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah, yeah, I hear
yeah,
what you're saying. That
yeah,
that there's so many other layers of and so many other types of abuse that can lead to physical abuse, but the awareness around domestic abuse is not just physical. And that
mm-hmm,
was not our intention, was not to ever just be about a physical, only physical abuse. Like
yeah,
our intention was always abuse, not just physical violence.
yeah, absolutely.
So
There was so much that
that's
came
that.
through with everybody's stories, and I think the overarching thing is each person had this moment of like these moments of something would happen that was kind of like a yellowish flag, and
Hmm.
then there would be like a moment of good, that like apology and fixing that came
Hmm.
afterwards, and then another yellow flag and a moment of fixing that came
Yeah.
afterwards, and they just kind of piled up until you're getting solid red flags and now you're stuck, but you can't, I really think of Rebecca's story where she physically tried to leave multiple times and kept getting stopped. Like,
Lord.
the part where she, and again, we said this at the beginning, but the amount of people that I've heard say things about people, like, I don't know why they don't just leave. And
Mm.
there's a massive difference. It's the big thing I really want people, there's a massive difference between a shitty relationship and an abusive relationship. Like, those are
Yes.
two very different things. You can be in a relationship with someone who's shitty and maybe they cheat on you. Maybe they never clean the house. Maybe it all falls on you. Maybe they're not present and stuff like that. They're not very engaged in your connection in your relationship, but
Hmm.
that doesn't necessarily mean they're abusive. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
and so like I think because there's not a control there, right? There's no coerciveness, there's no control, there's none of this. And but when it's abusive, um that's different and it's a
Yeah.
harder thing to get out of. And so like I think her physical descriptions of actually physically trying to leave
Yeah.
and not being able to is just, I hope that so many people hear that and be like, man, I never imagined that. And it again, it's one of those moments where even us who have talked about being in an abusive relationship had these moments of like, where come it now looking back is like, why didn't I call the police?
Yeah.
In those moments. And like, so it's easy to be someone looking at a story and be like, why don't you just call the police?
Yeah.
And when you're in it, you're like, I have no idea why that didn't cross my mind. Like, it
Yep.
literally, it wasn't like I should call them. No, I won't. It was literally like, doesn't
Not
even
even
cross your
there.
mind. Not even
Yep.
there.
Totally.
And that's what Rebecca said, like with the, in the car time. And I know for me with the walking story, and
Hmm.
it's just crazy.
Absolutely. And I had an aunt actually reach out to me and was talking about
Oh, yeah.
exactly that. And she was talking about how And it was actually a fascinating, I should bring it up actually here. It was a fascinating thing that she said, and she was basically, correct me if I'm misquoting you here, Auntie. I believe that I am paraphrasing, but I should bring it up just so I'm not paraphrasing. But basically the idea was, I mean, it's again multifaceted. I'm not overusing that term, but some of that is also, whether it's conscious or subconscious, there's a fear there also in, if call the police, number one, am I safe to do so? Will I be safe in their hands? Are they going to believe me? Can they actually protect me? And now as I'm saying this, I want to really put a precursor out there that if you are in danger, please call authorities. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you are in danger, there are fears there, and it is normal to feel afraid, but please call authorities if you feel like you're in danger. So that is not, I am not saying don't call authorities. But I think that there's like a lot of levels as to why we don't in those moments. And those can also speak to why people don't leave sooner. And I would say that if anybody does think that way, feel that way, or speak that way, why don't they just leave? Then they have never been in a situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is clear.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have been in a situation like this, you understand that there are just so many levels to it, and so many levels into like that coercive control can just absolutely wreak havoc on your nervous system and on your brain. And there's so many different levels to it that um, I think that it's just, you can't put judgment on that. You just can't put judgment on that, because you just, like I said, if you have never been in that situation, then you do not have the right to say, why didn't they just leave? So if you really want to know why didn't they just leave, then it's series like this, it's episodes, it's professionals, it's diving into stories. Do your research. Don't ask the person. Don't ever ask somebody, I don't understand why you don't just leave.
Mm-hmm.
Ask a person, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
How can I support you?
Yeah.
Do not ever ask somebody, why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
Do your research on the side and find out those answers, because the answers are out there. And most professional places, most, like when we talk to Gems for Gems, and I'm speaking about that episode a lot because it's the most recent one in my brain, but it's also the one that we are saying, if you want to donate, if you find it in your heart to make a donation to this cause, Gems for Gems is one that we are absolutely speaking for. And but you go to the help hotline. There's really great websites. Gems for Gems has a really great website.
Contact Rowan House if you're in a
Yeah.
safe place. They are unsafe place. They can help
Mhm.
educate you on what you might need for help.
Absolutely. And if you're a person that's looking to who's a supportive person, and you're just like, I don't know what to do, or I don't understand why they don't just leave, go to those websites, do your research, and they will tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
They will explain it. But yeah, I just
Yeah.
rambled again.
No, it's totally fine.
Okay.
The other thing I just want to touch on, because we've talked a lot about like the relationships, spousal relationships, but touching on Rachel's story of
Mm-hmm.
childhood abuse, childhood sexual abuse specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think I hope that anybody who listens to that, it just hits home in the fact that with our kids, is we really need to be diligent about these conversations with our kids,
Yeah.
not only, not in like a, how do I put this? There's age appropriate context for what
Yes.
is, nobody
100%.
outside of mom or dad. Like when you're a baby, mom and dad help you wipe. When you were old
Yeah.
enough to wipe yourself, nobody should be touching your body parts unless there's a medical reason to.
Yep.
And that medical reason should be brought up by you. And
Yep.
then a doctor is only approved if mom and dad say that doctor is approved. Like that's
Yes.
it. Nobody else touches those parts of
Yep.
your body ever.
Or tells you what to do with them.
Or tells you what to do with them. And like those conversations, and they obviously progress as your kids get older.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important one. And then also I know another one, and a question that my friend always has told me that she's always asked her kids is when they come back from places is there any time that you ever felt unsafe or uncomfortable? And, you know,
Good
when
one.
it's a good one, right? And, you know, when they're little, like I've asked my kids that, and it's like, yeah, I didn't like when they made me read this book. And you're
And
like,
you're like,
okay,
okay.
good to know. Thanks for sharing. You know what I mean?
They
Like
made
things
me
like
eat broccoli.
they made me eat broccoli. They, whatever, like the things that
Yeah.
kids would say. I didn't like their couch,
Yeah.
you know? And you're like,
Totally.
okay, thanks for sharing that with me. And that's
Yeah.
how it's going to start, right? And then
Yeah.
as they get older, they're going to be able to distinguish those moments more and more and
Yeah.
more. And they always know that you're going to ask that. And so, and anyways, it's just like a whole thing, right? So, and these conversations need to be happening in the house and with kids, and we
Yeah.
need to believe our kids, as Rachel said. Like when they tell you
Mhm.
something, don't assume they're making it up, or don't assume a write-off. Dig
Yeah.
deeper, ask more information. Like
Mhm.
obviously, again, age appropriate questions, and I can't instruct you on that because I am not a professional, but there are people who can.
Yeah.
So
100%. And like red flags to watch for in your children, like, or the children around you too, like
mhm.
nieces, nephews, neighbors, children around you. If you are in any a teacher or anything like that, there are signs to watch for that. I think, you know, Rachel's episode and also Jordan's episode when she talked about her childhood experience,
Yeah.
those two I think really kind of highlight some red flags of things that you can watch for in your kids. Um yeah, because the like the numbers are staggering, and I think that a lot of this begins with early education, and this goes also to like there's also that thing that Peter Samuelson was saying when we talked with him about um how it's on a I don't even know if we should release this because this was something he said don't that they don't speak up very publicly about, but about how like the
He just said he
cycle
doesn't speak
continues.
about it in group, like teenage groups. He doesn't speak about it
Mm,
to children. He still speaks
right?
about it.
But like, okay, so like just about how the cycle can continue and how the cycle can build on itself and how, you know, that whole hurt people thing is really true.
Yeah.
And so like early education, catching things going on with our children is so important for all of these facets of abuse, for catching it to make sure that your children are safe physically with the people around them and that they are not being abused. And also by starting to talk to our children about, you know, we listen to our kids and also our kids learning to trust their instincts and also teaching kindness and all of these sorts of things, teaching consent, teaching all of these things as they're early on. One thing that Jordan said in her episode that really bothered me was about how difficult it is to go into schools and talk about these things. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, I don't like that. I
I mean,
don't
like,
like that.
that's a whole Alberta education thing we could get on right now, but let's not go there with
Oh,
what's
we won't go
happening.
there. We won't
We
go there
should go
today,
there, but not right now.
but yeah, kids need to be age appropriate, of
Yeah.
course, in age appropriate ways, but there are ways, and I'm glad that you said that we're not professionals. We're not going to tell you what's age appropriate, but find it out
Yeah.
and do it because putting our head in the sand is just not the way.
No. Can I can I tell the story that I told you that I forgot about in my story on here? Is that
Yes,
okay?
but I can't remember what it was.
Um
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. Yes.
I
Yeah,
just
for sure.
I want to tell
Sorry.
this because I just forgot.
Of
No,
course, that's our
gosh.
podcast. Tell
It's
us,
our
say what you
podcast. I do
want.
whatever I want. And then we'll tell you a little bit about homelessness or the Unhoused Awareness Month. But
Mhm.
I remembered, so I know in our opening episode, I told a bit about like my story of experience of domestic violence. Well, I guess domestic abuse, but I guess this isn't specifically an abusive story, but it's a funny one, and I just have to tell it because I forgot
Speaking
about
of
it.
finding humor in dark
Speaking of funny
things,
humor, I
tell us a funny
forgot about
story.
it entirely, and me and my husband and my kids, we went to Banff on the weekend. And as we pull into that main street, if you've been to Banff, we go into that main street of Banff. And every time I go on that street now, I remember, oh, so it's hilarious because my husband and I also got engaged in Banff and have been there many times for different things. But this one story, every time I go, I mean, I also think about times I went with friends, but so there, every time I go, I remember this terrible story and I remember my lovely engagement story. But so it's really funny
Simultaneously.
simultaneously.
Didn't
But
we do
this,
your bachelorette there too?
we also did my
We
bachelorette there.
did,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
I've done
that
a
was
couple
Banff, wasn't
bachelorettes
it?
there.
Yeah.
Well, we stayed in Canmore and we went to Banff for my bachelorette, but
Yeah.
for the night party. Anyways, and I mean, I
Okay,
went there and
anyway.
stayed in hostels and went snowboarding. It doesn't matter. Anyways, all I remember is, so me and the ex I was talking about in the story, I had always wanted to do like a hotel night, like go in a hotel, rent a hot tub, have champagne and strawberries. Like I'd always wanted to do it. And he was like, yeah, let's go do that. And so I went and booked us a hotel room. And I was 19. I was freshly 19. I'd never really booked hotels by myself before. And it said jacuzzi tub. And I assumed that was the same thing as a hot tub. So we rent this hotel room, we show up, and it's just a jacuzzi tub, which is a bathtub with jets, right? Like it's nothing. Yeah. It doesn't fit two people. Not a hot tub. Not a hot tub. And I was kind of like, oh, bummer. Oh, well, we'll make do. Like it'll be fine. Like it'll be cramped and funny, but it'll be hilarious. It'll be great. Yeah. And that was how I went, because that's just how I am. And I mean, I can't say that's exactly how I was, but I remember probably being a little bit bummed and then being like, whatever. Like it's totally fine. We'll just make do. Yeah. And he threw a hissy fit. I can't remember what he said, but he was pissed off enough. And I was paying for that hotel room. Let's get that first and foremost. I was paying for that hotel room. Oh my God. He was pissed off enough that I was like, okay, well, let's go see if we can find another hotel that has a hot tub available for the night. And so I think this was before Googling on phones. I'm fairly confident. So I think we sat down at a computer maybe at the hotel and like looked up what hotels had hot tubs in rooms. And then we drove to those hotels. I can't remember if we went to one or two, but we went to one or two and they didn't have any available. And they said, try this other one. And we went to this one and they said, yeah, we have one room available. And I'm pretty sure it was $300 a night. Now this is 17 years ago.
Oh my God.
18. How old am I? Almost 18 years ago. And I was like, cool, like, let's do it. We'll take it. And so then we checked into, so now I was paying for this hotel room that we were supposed to be in and $300 a night for this hotel that we were actually staying in. And we stayed and he was the happy camper. But I completely forgot. I don't remember anything else about the night. I just remember being like, oh, it's fine, and a hissy fit, and then going hotel to hotel to find one, and then being like, yes, fine, let's do this one. And so it's just like one of those things, like, I mean, that's just like a whiny baby situation, but yeah, it's just so funny when you put it in the rest of the story with him of like, totally. You know, the hissy fit in Cuba and all of these things.
Yeah, totally.
Anyways, it's just
totally funny. Yes.
Hope you're laughing.
It kind of goes down into one of those categories of like, could be a pink flag, but turns into a red flag because of all of the other things that go along with it, right?
Yeah, like if it was just that, you're just like, yeah, that's just a shitty person.
You just had a bad night.
You just had a bad night. You're just a whiny bitch. Right. But it, you know, when you add it into like some of the other stuff is not.
Totally. Totally.
Anyways, like if you don't tell me where you are right now, you don't want to know what's going to happen. It's a bit abusive.
That's a bit, not a bit, fully abusive.
Fully, yeah. Anyway.
Let's just not mince words here. All nope. Right.
Anyways, okay, so we had I don't say a great time doing domestic violence awareness, so that's not the word I want. We had a honorable time.
We were honored to hold space for everybody who came and spoke to us and trusted us with their stories, because
absolutely.
I mean, this is not an easy thing to talk about. And you got to also, you know, I was thinking today, why do I feel so heavy about this subject? Because we've done heavy subjects before. I think the thing that makes talking about domestic abuse a little bit different and unique in the story sharing part, and why I'm just so, I mean, I'm honored always that anybody would allow us to hold space for them. These particular guests, you've got to realize that these particular guests are speaking about something that should not be controversial, yet somehow it is, because I guarantee you there is somebody in their life who is hearing their story and judging them for it. Mm-hmm. Or there's somebody listening to their story saying they shouldn't be saying their story. Mm-hmm. There's somebody also, their abuser is still out there. All of these people who shared these stories, with the exception of maybe, I don't know. And the only reason I'm saying exception maybe is because when Jordan talked about her abuse, I'm not sure if that
person is still
alive or not. Everybody else who shared their story, the person is still alive. Mm-hmm. They're still out there. They can hear this.
Yeah.
And that is a very vulnerable thing to come out of the other side of this and have the kahunas to say, to share your story. So, I mean, detailed, and to know that somebody might hear it and hate it. Somebody might hear it and be mad.
Be mad. Yeah. Their
And
family, them, people they know.
they're
And
doing it anyway. And they're doing
yeah.
it. And one thing that stood out to me about, I mean, a lot of things stood out to me, but one thing that stood out to me about what Rebecca said was that, or what that part of the conversation, where that conversation went about how when you speak out and if you are going to the police and pressing charges, or if you're speaking out or any of this stuff, it is not necessarily just about you. It's maybe not even remotely about you. It's about the next people coming up. So I think all of these people coming and sharing their story, it wasn't just to share their story so that they feel better about their stories. I think all of them had a piece that was like, I'm going to share my story so that somebody else doesn't feel alone, so that somebody else knows that they can do it, so that somebody else knows this isn't right. You're not being treated fairly. This is called abuse, and you can get yourself out of it and you can thrive on the other side of it. And
Yeah.
here are some resources how. Like, it is about sharing it for other people, and doing so knowing that there is potential judgment is just a remarkably brave thing to do.
Yeah.
And selfless.
Yeah.
Selfless and brave.
Absolutely.
So,
and I
yeah.
want to just say one last thing is that if you have a story, if you're listening to this and you have a story and you would like to share it, even though we're not in Domestic Abuse Awareness Month anymore, we will absolutely still hold
100%.
space for you. So feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or our email. So our Instagram at the Happy Soul Podcast and our email, the Happy Soul Podcast at gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to us. We will absolutely
love to
honor that 100%.
Yeah.
So
love to.
yeah, so that's, we're closing out Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, moving into the Unhoused Awareness Month. We have some really incredible guests that we are really excited to share with you. So we have Peter Samuelson, who runs the EDAR program, which is Everyone Deserves a Roof, which he runs it down in California, but I know they go through a lot of the southern states. It's a housing program he'll tell you all about. It's really incredible. If you don't know who Peter Samuelson is, we had him on the podcast earlier. He's a film producer and runs multiple different charities, or has started, I should say, multiple different charities helping vulnerable groups. And it's his heart is like, he has the most wholesome heart. I mean, more important people need to have a heart like him, in my opinion.
He's amazing. He's amazing. We love talking to him, and we're just so happy that he agreed to come back. We were like, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we have Allie coming on, who Allie has also been on the podcast before. She shared basically her whole story. In end of season 2, she shared her whole story, going through drug addiction and alcoholism and living in homelessness and the loss of 2 babies. And she's come out the other side, and she is kicking butt and taking names right now. Like, she is on fire, and I love watching her. I'm like so glad I met her. She's such an incredible human and hilarious. Oh my God. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you need to. I can't remember it. But okay, you look it up while I keep talking.
Yeah.
So her story, and she shares her story of experiencing homelessness and things that meant a lot to her and helped her, and what would have helped her. She talks about some of the organizations that helped her. And we're really honored that she was open to being back on again and sharing further in detail about that story. And I think the really big thing that comes out of her story is the one small act that someone did for her that meant so damn much. And I think, again, and then we can tie this into our conversation that we just had with Phil Calvert of the mustard seed, about his, it's more than you think. And that's, I think, what Allie talks about in her one action, that one tiny action that maybe you as a person who is not unhoused can think it's not enough. Like, I barely did anything, can mean the world to that person. 100%. And I think that that's an action we can take forward in everything. If you think I could do this one little thing for them, don't second guess yourself and say, no, who cares? Do it. Do it if you have the means to, because it will make a difference 100%. For those people. Yeah. And that's the piece that comes out of Allie's that I really love.
Yeah.
And then we have...
I'm talking
all over the place.
yeah, before you carry on, I'm going to stop you. So her handle is healing through habits with an underscore between each word.
Yeah.
And yeah, she is hilarious. She's super raw and like so real and so
And there to help. All she wants
I
to do is use
love
her knowledge to help people.
I
It's
love how
beautiful.
transparent she is about everything. And so her episode specifically, if you listen to the Ali episodes before, if you haven't, go back and have a listen for sure. But I want to just put this caveat out there. You don't have to have had listened to those to listen. It is still going to make sense. It's not like a book series that it's not going to make sense either way.
Yeah.
You can have listened to one without the other. But of course, we're going to say listen to them all because she's amazing and her story is unreal. But this episode was really kind of neat because we got to just like really, so her previous one, we were diving into her life.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, we got to really dive into how she experienced homelessness and where she's at now, but like how she got out of it and how that life was for her. And you know, like for me, you know, you see people and like one of the things that struck me about Peter and also Phil kind of said a couple of things today too that made me think I didn't ask him more, but um Peter would go and just talk to people on the street and just have conversations with them. And I think that's amazing. And I have not done that, but I've always been curious. Anytime I've ever seen anybody and thought, you know, like I'm just so curious, like what is your story and how did this happen? How are you standing here? What is your story?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had so many questions and so many curiosities. Well, being able to speak to Ali really opens that up because as two people who were privileged enough to not ever have to deal with that and and to not have had a childhood like hers and not had to face that in early adulthood and in childhood, it is just it's a whole world that we knew nothing about. And so to be able to ask her raw questions and have her raw answers in return is really a gift. Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
mhm.
Absolutely. And then today we spoke to Phil Calvert from the Mustard Seed, and he spoke about the work they do. And I didn't realize that they were in 7 cities.
Me
That's really
either.
cool. Yeah, that's really
Me
cool.
either.
So he highlights so much in there about what their organization does and just what we can do as a community,
Yeah.
their organization aside, what we can do as a community to better
Yeah.
support the unhoused community, which is I really appreciate so much. I have
Mhm.
my notes from him right in front of me, and like I said, that more than you think thing that he
Mhm.
really said was really beautiful.
It is a really beautiful episode talking about that, and their founding story is so darn cool.
And also his
Love it so much.
story of his generosity as a
Oh my
child. Like you
gosh.
have to tune in to
Oh
hear
my
this
gosh.
story.
I was crying. I that that's oh my
So
gosh.
good.
So
So good.
good.
But I think it really
So good.
speaks to the household he grew up in and
Yeah.
obviously how generous his parents must have
Hmm.
been
Sound like
to,
beautiful people. And
yeah,
also the way that she reacted. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
I
And
would love to talk to his mom and hear her version of that story. Like
totally.
100%.
Oh my
And then we have
gosh.
another guest coming up that we're not going to say yet, not because we're trying to be surprising, but sometimes things don't end up working out. So we have potentially
Yes.
2 other guests, but sometimes things don't pan out because of scheduling. So
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that. But one more, potentially 2 more guests speaking on this, whether it's their organization or stories they've lived in terms of being unhoused, and we're really
Yeah.
grateful for everybody who's partaking and those who've listened, because I think
Yeah.
I've said this before. I said this recently, actually, when we were talking about Peter Samuelson, and I think this applies with what we're doing too, is with our awareness months. When you talk about spinal muscular atrophy and how it affects babies, people are like, absolutely, I want to help with that. Let's rally behind the babies and the kids and give them better lives and more access. And it's kind of like what Candace was saying
Yes.
is like we forget about the adults. Everyone
Yep.
rallies behind the kids, but we're forgetting about the
Hmm.
adults.
Hmm.
But when you talk about homelessness and the unhoused, that's a
It's all of a sudden
different,
controversial.
all of a sudden controversial. All
Hmm.
of a sudden people are on different sides of the fence about it
Yeah.
and are not like, it's a very different topic. And I think it's because people, oh, look, hello, kitty.
I forgot I didn't put him outside. Sunny.
Hi,
Well,
Sunny.
say hello to the Happy Soul family, Fluffy Butt. Why do you do? You're not supposed to be up there. Oh, if he knocks that sign
I
down on
was
me
just thinking
again.
that. Um, when we bring this up, it's very different. Poking out of your feathers there. It's very different, right? Finding the humor. He's adding in humor right now. It's great. Um, it's very different. It's a very different vibe that you get from people when you talk about this, you know, and I know I said this in one of the other episodes, like talking about the Green Line in Calgary, and people would be like, I don't want that because I don't want the homeless community down here. And I'm like, that's again, that like not in my backyard that we were
And
talking about, right?
there's also controversy about like, you know, people can form a lot of judgment about why somebody is unhoused and what to do about it and where they should be and you know there's definitely, sorry I kind of interrupted you, but there's
No.
definitely controversy there about that, and there's differing opinions about that, and yeah,
Even
yeah,
think of,
it's true.
I don't want to give it away, but the story Peter Samuelson said about the mayor, you
Oh,
know,
I
about how
freaking
the,
love that
I
story.
know.
Oh
And the mayor was like,
man,
no, there's none in mine. Nope.
they
Nope,
may
there's not.
have put themselves in a compromised position
To prove a point.
to prove a point, and I think he did it. He
Oh, yeah,
proved
he
the
did.
point.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
he's good. He's such
He's
a
so
good
good.
man.
So, anyways, yes. So we're very much looking forward to this mini series coming up. And we hope that if you have a story or you know someone with a story, again, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
We are all about throwing as many episodes into these mini series as we can.
And
So,
also, I'm really glad that you mentioned that earlier, but like, you know, we do these mini series because we like to really like hone in and focus on one subject for an amount of time. We like to throw them in the month of that is their like their National Awareness Month. That is a recognized National Awareness Month. That does not mean we don't want to talk about this the rest of the year. So if you have a story and you've been listening along and it's January now and you're like, "Dang, I wish I didn't miss that." As long as this podcast is running and you have a story, reach out to us because it doesn't need to fit in the month. We can just tell your story whenever we dang well please because it's our podcast and we'll do whatever the heck
we
we
do what we
want. Thank you
want,
very
man. I do what I want.
That's it. It's like that. What's her name? Alicia Keys. I do what the fuck I want.
Oh.
Sunny, what the
Yeah.
hell?
So let us know. We're very excited, very honored for all of the stories with domestic violence, domestic abuse, the unhoused. Super honored about how this all came together.
Yeah.
And yeah, please reach out with any questions or anything that you
Totally.
have.
And if you are looking for if you're looking to be connected with anybody that we spoke to who said that they would be helpful, if you have questions about resources, if you have questions and you want to keep the conversation going, you can reach out to us on social media too. We're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll put it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. To help support the growth of this podcast, please feel free to leave us a review, follow us on socials, or recommend us to your friends. Your support honestly means the world to us. With love, Sammi and Melissa.